As Clint Eastwood once said to a nervous writer, "Go ahead. Anything you want to do with it." The author, let's call him Peoples because that's what Eastwood called him, took the blessing and ran. He wrote and rewrote twisted scenes, swapped endings until every edge was polished and the script shone like a showroom cult. Then he stepped back and saw the corpse of the story staring up at him. He called Eastwood in a panic. "Forget everything I just said," he implored. "I'm shooting it exactly as it is. The more I try to improve it, the more I kill it." Eastwood laughed, that low, dry laugh that sounds like gravel sliding off a boot heel. "Welcome to the club, kid." That moment is the quiet heartbeat of everything that Clint Eastwood has built across 74 years in front of and behind the camera. 7 decades in, he's still making American movies leaner, meaner, and unforgettable. He rode onto the world stage as a lone gunman in the good, the bad, and the ugly, squinting through dust and cordite. He aged into the bruised conscience of Unforgiven, into the broken knuckles of $1 Million Baby. He never needed a cape. A poncho and a whisper were enough for him. A great script gets you halfway home. Perfect casting adds another 40%. And the last 10% is the only part you're allowed to mess up. That's the math he lives by. That's the math he dies by. So when at 91 a reporter asked for his 7 favorite films, the room leaned forward expecting 6 shooters and sun-bleached horizons. Instead, Eastwood handed over 7 titles. 6 he directed himself. 1 he'd loved since he was a hungry kid actor sleeping in his car between auditions. Each one came in under budget. Each and every one still cuts. The lesson he seared into every director who ever stood on his set. Finish quickly, finish honest, finish cheap. I chase that standard every day and still can't touch him. We'll walk backward through the 7 films Clint Eastwood calls his private canon tonight. We begin in smoke-filled jazz clubs and end on a soundstage soaked in blood and tinsel. Each film peels back another layer of the man behind the squint. The kid who fell for saxophone solos on late-night radio. The philosopher who measures every story against right and wrong. The craftsman who'd rather be true than flawless. Stick with me and you'll see why his number 1 pick isn't a Western at all, but a razor-sharp Hollywood satire that still keeps him awake. Get a drink, turn off the overhead lights, and roll the projector. 7. Bird, 1988. The jazz legend who haunted his heart. The countdown opens not with a gunshot, but with a saxophone crying through blue smoke. Bird is Eastwood's love letter to Charlie Bird Parker, a genius who flew so high on talent that drugs dragged him straight into the ground. Eastwood shot the movie like one long solo. Memories collide, time loops, and every cut lands on the beat of a heart that can't slow down. He was 9 years old when he first heard jazz sneaking out of a crackling radio in Piedmont, California. His father was at the shipyards. His mother was ironing. The night was thick with fog and possibility. A tenor sax wailed across the airwaves, and young Clint froze, shirt half-buttoned, because a sound felt like someone had opened a door inside his chest. 40 years later, when a script about Charlie Parker landed on his desk at Malpaso Productions, Eastwood felt the same shiver. He didn't want to direct it, he needed to. It was a good script, he told CBS Sunday Morning, leaning back in a canvas chair that looked too small for his legend. About people who insist on sinking into the abyss even while the world worships them. Forrest Whitaker doesn't play Parker. He becomes him. Restless, electric, half ecstasy, half torment. He gained 30 pounds. Learned to finger the alto sax's valves in perfect sync with Parker's ghost, and lost himself so completely that co-star Diane Venora said she sometimes forgot whose eyes she was looking into. Ken awarded Whitaker Best Actor. Eastwood took home the Golden Globe for directing. The sound team snatched the Oscar. Jack N. Green, Eastwood's longtime cinematographer, painted every frame in amber and shadow so thick you can smell the cigarettes. Parker's own solos, cleaned up, dropped straight into the soundtrack, floating through rooms like ghosts refusing to leave. Watch the scene in which Bird collapses in a Kansas City hotel room. The camera drifts across peeling wallpaper while the sax keeps playing on the record player, which hasn't skipped a groove. Whitaker's cheek is pressed to the carpet. His fingers are still twitching in 4/4 time. Eastwood holds the shot for 12 silent seconds. 12 seconds is an eternity in a theater, but that's where genius lives, between the notes you hear and the ones you don't. Critics dubbed it the most soulful thing the cowboy ever made. Box office quiet, legacy loud. Bird proved that the man with no name could speak fluent heartbreak in 4/4 time. It proved something Eastwood has never said out loud, too. The line between brilliance and self-destruction is thinner than a cymbal's edge, and he spent his whole life walking it without looking down. 6. Letters from Iwo Jima, 2006. A war story told through the enemy's eyes. Halfway around the world from Flags of Our Fathers, Eastwood planted his camera in black sand and dared to speak Japanese. General Kurabayashi, Ken Watanabe, and a homesick baker named Seigo, Kazunari Ninomiya, dig trenches they'll never crawl out of. They write letters to wives they will never hold again. No propaganda, no heroes, just men waiting for the sky to fall. The idea came to him on a bullet train from Tokyo to Kyoto. He was 65 years old, jet-lagged, staring out the window at rice paddies sliding past like green film frames. He thought, every war movie I have ever loved showed the Americans raising the flag. What if I showed the guys watching from the caves? What if I let them be the heroes in their own story? Studio executives blanched. Eastwood shrugged. He filmed the movie in Japanese, subtitled, on a volcanic island off the coast of Los Angeles that looked nothing like Iwo Jima, until his crew dumped 40 tons of black sand imported from Hawaii. He came in 11 days early and $4 million under budget. Typical. Ken Watanabe's Kurabayashi is all steel and sorrow. With a stick, he draws the plans of battle in the dirt. He knows each line signifies a death sentence. Seigo simply wishes to see his newborn daughter. He hides a letter inside his helmet. If I do not return, please tell her father was not a coward. When American Marines finally storm the beach, Eastwood films them from inside the Japanese bunkers. Faceless silhouettes against a white sunrise. You don't cheer. You swallow hard. The film ends with a single rifle shot echoing across the Pacific. Cut to black. Roll credits in silence. Audiences sat stunned from Santa Monica to Shibuya. Roger Ebert said Eastwood had made the anti-war movie to end all war movies, because it refuses to take sides. 4 Oscar nominations followed, including Best Picture, the first foreign-language film ever nominated in that category by an American director. Eastwood lost to The Departed. He sent a bottle of single malt to Martin Scorsese with a note. Next round's on me, kid. Letters from Iwo Jima is the moment Eastwood stopped being a movie star and became a moralist with a camera. He gave the enemy a face, a family, a heartbeat. He reminded us that the only thing universal about battle is the wish it would end. 5. The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976. The Western that rewrote revenge. Most directors get one miracle. Eastwood gets one every decade. In 1976, fresh off the Dirty Harry sequels, he bought the rights to a pulp novel nobody wanted. He cast himself as Josie Wales, a Missouri farmer turned outlaw after Union soldiers murder his wife and son. He shot it in Utah in 46 days, mostly because the snow was coming and the budget was gone. What emerged was the first Western that dared to ask what happens after the shooting stops. Josie doesn't ride off into the sunset. He rides toward a kitchen table where a ragtag family is waiting for supper. The final shootout isn't on Main Street. It's in a bedroom with a little boy handing Josie a pistol like it's a dinner plate. Pauline Kael called it a pacifist Western disguised as a bloodbath. She wasn't wrong. Watch the scene of Chief Dan George as Lone Waddy telling Josie, "Gettin' old ain't for sissies." Eastwood lets the camera linger on 2 weathered faces sharing a jug of whiskey and a lifetime of regret. No music, just wind. That's Eastwood's signature. Silence that speaks louder than symphonies. The studio wanted a happy ending. Eastwood gave them a doorway. Josie Wales stands on a porch at dusk, hat in hand, watching children chase fireflies. He doesn't smile. He doesn't need to. The war is over. The healing process has just begun. Fade out. 4. Mystic River, 2003. The river that runs through every sin. On a flight to Boston, Eastwood read Dennis Lehane's novel and underlined half the pages in red. At 3 a.m., he called Sean Penn in. Penn said yes before he even heard the part. Tim Robbins and Laura Linney signed on the same week. They shot in 39 days in working-class neighborhoods where the accents were real and the coffee was terrible. It's a simple story of 3 childhood friends, 1 murdered daughter, and a river that keeps every secret. The performances are volcanic. Penn screams until his voice cracks. Robbins whispers until your skin crawls. Linney delivers a 2-minute monologue about loyalty that should be taught in acting schools for the next century. Eastwood directed from a folding chair, feet propped on an apple box, squinting at the monitor like he was reading tomorrow's headlines. He never said action. He just nodded. The actors swear the nod carried more weight than any megaphone in Hollywood. 3 Oscar nominations for acting, 1 win for Penn, 1 for Robbins. Once more, Eastwood went home empty-handed. He told the orchestra to continue playing while he walked out for a smoke. That's Eastwood. Hand the limelight over to someone else, then disappear before the applause. 3. $1 Million Baby, 2004. The punch you never see coming. Eastwood was 73 when he read the script. This one's going to hurt, he told his producing partner. He was right. Hilary Swank stars as Maggie, a waitress who wants to box. Morgan Freeman plays the janitor of a gym who narrates like the ghost of Christmas future. Eastwood plays Frankie Dunn, a trainer who's lost his daughter and his faith in one fell swoop. They filmed in a real gym in downtown LA where the heavy bags still hang from chains older than most actors. Swank broke ribs sparring. Eastwood wrapped her in ice and said, "Good. Means you're alive." But the twist comes late, cheap shot cheap, and lands like a freight train. Audiences gasped so loud in test screenings that the projectionist thought the sound had failed. Eastwood refused to change a frame. He won his 2nd Oscar for directing, his 2nd as a producer, and gave the statuettes to Swank and Freeman because they did the bleeding. At the podium, he thanked his mother. She told me, "Never tamper with the truth." Then he walked off before the music swelled. Classic Clint. 2. Unforgiven, 1992. The West. Buried. Eastwood bought the script in 1980 and locked it in a drawer for 12 years. He wanted to wait until his face had enough miles for the role of William Money, a retired killer dragged back for one last job. He shot in Alberta under skies so wide you could see tomorrow coming. Gene Hackman plays Little Bill, a sheriff who constructs houses and breaks fingers with pride. The final gunfight is lit with lightning and regret. Hackman won the Oscar. Eastwood won everything else. Unforgiven is the Western that killed the Western, then brought it back to life long enough to say sorry. It's also the film that taught a generation of directors how to end a story, with a man riding away from the grave he just dug, whispering, "I ain't like that no more." 1. The Player, 1992. The satire that still haunts him. And now the moment you've all been waiting for. Clint Eastwood's favorite movie. The one he watches when the house is dark and the dogs are asleep isn't his. It's Robert Altman's The Player, a snake eating its tail. A Hollywood satire starring Tim Robbins as a studio exec who kills a writer and gets away with it. Eastwood saw it opening weekend at the Academy Theater on Melrose. He laughed so hard that he spilled popcorn on his boots. Then he sat through the credits twice because the final gag, life imitating art imitating murder, felt like a personal dare. He keeps a laserdisc of The Player on the same shelf as his Oscars. He quotes the lines to assistants who weren't born when the movie came out. He once told Martin Scorsese over steak at Musso and Frank, "Altman got us all in one room and shot us with a Super 8. I'm still bleeding." Why does the toughest man in Hollywood love a movie that mocks everything he stands for? Because it's honest. Because it's funny. Because each time the studio exec answers the phone with, "Can I call you back?" Eastwood hears the sound of his own soul selling tickets.